It is a beautiful Sunday night to look at some Dynasty teams, to try to come up with some trades, to look at some leagues that have already done their rookie drafts and others that have not. But let me go ahead, set this bad boy up here. First team that we will be looking at is going to be coming from Nene Atlanta. I'm sorry, I can't pronounce this, my friend. Really do appreciate you and super excited to look at your team, though. Said, I did a review last year, made a few moves, but the Brooks injury really hurts the team. To get a trade done, I basically have to overpay. We are getting 3 taxi squad spots. I've been trying to move up from the 110 and the 201 to the 103, but at this point, I feel like I just have to stick and draft. On the bright side, we are going to be getting Ashton Genty soon. Well, first off, my friend, really do appreciate you and really excited to look into this. Let me hook you up with both a couple free start sit questions as well as a trade question. Big thing is with this team, reason we need these start sit questions is it is a very, very shallow format. This is a 10-team league in which we are only going to be starting 2 wide receivers and 1 flex. So considering the format, depth does not matter whatsoever. You are already going to have a very difficult time figuring out how to submit your starting lineup weekly. Our team is Love Thy Neighbors. We are the 3rd team in the league analyzer, and we have not had our rookie draft yet. So first thing that I want to mention here is this 101, specifically in this format in which depth doesn't matter, and we are trying to optimize to get as many studs at the very top end as possible. It is a pick that you absolutely have to hold on to. There's no world in which I would ever considering of trading down, regardless of what the team looks like. This 101, stick and pick, Ashton Genty. Don't think twice about it. But anyway, we'll get to all the rookie picks in just one second. First, let's go position by position. Quarterback, Caleb Williams. Caleb, everything's played out exactly in his favor this offseason. I mean, you're looking at a quarterback that has a significantly better offensive line. You're looking at a quarterback with a significantly better coaching staff. You're looking at a quarterback with a better tight end, and they also add in Luther Burden. So overall, Caleb going into year 2, with Rome Odunze also going into year 2 as well, is set up, in my opinion, to crush. I'm completely fine to view him as my quarterback 1 from a rebuilding perspective, contending perspective, no matter what. It's a 1 quarterback format, so obviously the depth of quarterback not going to matter much whatsoever. I'm going through and looking at what's on the waiver wire. I mean, not really anybody that we would love to go out there and pick up, but maybe like if Daniel Jones ends up starting, you could go and grab him. I will say real quick, looking at your waivers, Shaheed is 100% a player that we need to be adding to this team. Cut Elijah Mitchell ASAP, add in Shaheed. In like a start 11 dynasty league, you definitely have a shot to hit your starting lineup here since you only start 2 wide receivers, 1 flex. In reality, no waiver wire move you're making is probably going to make a difference anyway. But, I mean, it's a free ad with the player that has a decent amount of value. I'd go for it. Going over to running back, the running back room as of now in a 10-team league is kind of whatever. Like, if Breece Hall is my running back 1 in a 12-team format, I'm cool with it. 10-team league, but nonetheless, we're going to be adding Genty. So, realistically, Breece Hall's your running back 2, which is amazing. Then we have the depth of Charbonnet, Benson, and Tracy. You can contend with that running back room. I know the Jonathan Brooks injury sucks, but at this point, you have to write Brooks off as he's effectively a 0. And honestly, it's not going to matter too much when we have the 101 here. Going over to receiver, we have a locked and loaded stud with Neighbors. We have the Rome stack with Caleb. We have Waddle, Reed, Jennings. So overall, I would say like 10-team league, I'm not super pumped to have Rome Odunze as my wide receiver 2, Jalen Waddle as my wide receiver 3. I think they're serviceable. I just don't want to say that it's positional strength for us. Looking at tight end, we're sitting with David Njoku, Cade Otton going into the season. Cade Otton, I think you have to lower down expectations considering the fact that you do have Ibuka going over. Just going to take more of those targets closer to the line of scrimmage and over the middle of the field. So how I'm viewing this team is I think once you add in Genty at pick 1, wide receiver, we're good enough to get by. Quarterback, we're good enough to get by. Tight ends, we're good enough to get by. And running back will be an extremely strong position once we add in Ashton Genty. And that is without us looking at pick 10, without us looking at pick 11, without us looking at pick 21. we go over and we actually look at what we have when it comes to the rookies here. Keep in mind, this is going to be a 1 quarterback format. So we're going to move Cam Ward off. We're not really looking at Ward. But we have pick 10 and 11 regardless. So remove Ward. And you're looking at a tier of like Matthew Golden, Igbuka, Loveland, Warren, Caleb Johnson, RJ Harvey. You're going to get 2 of these players. Now, since we'll be pick 10, and again, it's going to be a 1 quarterback format, we're not really going to get the opportunity to choose who we're getting out of this tier. Like, if it ends up being Loveland, if it ends up being Igbuka, if it ends up being Caleb Johnson or RJ Harvey, frankly, it doesn't exactly matter. Now, I make my rankings on the site, which, of course, you can access yourself. Just hit sort by Mason Dodd. But I make my rankings on the site under the assumption it's a 12-team start 10 Superflex league. So there, the wide receiver depth matters a little bit more than it would otherwise. Specifically with your league settings, however, since this is a league in which you only start 2 wide receivers in a flex, this is a start 7 format, there I would actually be optimizing and looking to grab the running backs if we can. The running backs and the tight ends. So I know this is how the rankings page is laid out, but for your league, I would rather have Caleb Johnson and RJ Harvey over any of these players at the top. Like Caleb Johnson, RJ Harvey would be my top priority ads there. And this is, of course, operating under the assumption that you don't have any of the big 6 players making it to you. But anyway, we'd be looking at Caleb Johnson and RJ Harvey. I think Loveland and Warren would 100% be in play as well, because the fewer flex spots you have in your league, the higher percentage of your starting lineup output is going to come from the tight end position every single week. So if you are able to get a difference-making player like Loveland or Warren, whoever you prefer between the two, since you have Caleb and we have Rome, we're kind of going in on the Chicago Bears stack anyway. So maybe for that reason, you break the tie in favor of just bringing Loveland in here. But I think you go with the tight end, you go with the running back. If they make it, worst case scenario, we're getting Matthew Golden and we're getting Igbuka. I know you already said we're trying to move up from like the 110 into the early first, which would be ideal, but you said that we're pretty much going to have to stick and pick. I'm looking at pick 21. 21, we should expect Cam Ward's already off the board. Jackson Dart, probably not. But regardless, you'll be in the range of like Kyle Williams, Cam Scattaboo, Jack Bash, Trey Harris. Any of these guys fall to you at the 301. They are pretty much auto picks. If you instead have to go down to the range of like Jalen Knoll, Dylan Sampson, Jaden Blue, again, with the later rookie picks that you have here as well, I would be swinging for the fences, especially when depth's not going to matter much. And I'd be trying to grab those running backs that if their situations were to change and they get a 3-down workload, then all of a sudden they actually turn into weekly starters. So like 301 here, I'd be looking for somebody like Dylan Sampson rather than Jalen Knoll, because with Sampson, we could say, oh, okay, well, if Judkins does get injured, then I think Sampson could probably move the needle for you in a way that just with how shallow this format is, Jalen Knoll probably will never do. So again, I think that's our rookie draft strategy. All in all, I know you're already trying to make this play, but if you could, in a shallower format like this, take some of these rookies that we draft, and a big issue that you're going to have with like trading the 201 is when the name's not attached to that pick, when people aren't realizing like, hell, that's pick 11. That's Matthew Golden. That's Tyler Warren. When they're not thinking of it through that lens, you're just not going to get the type of value that I think you'll get if you just wait another month or so. But if you go best player available with these 2 picks here, I would also like to explore the possibility of going through and trading like Tyler Warren as well as Jalen Waddle and getting the best wide receiver we can. Or maybe sending like Jalen Waddle and Tyler Warren and trying to make a move to get a significant upgrade when it comes to the tight end position. So let's just say hypothetically, right, we're in a spot where Tyler Warren's the best player available at pick 11. That's the guy we take, or pick 10, tomato, tomato. Is there any world in which we can go through and we can make a play to get like a significant producer at the top? Okay, so that's not happening, right? But maybe if we add in another piece or two here, like say we take Dylan Sampson as well, just start throwing together some crap in here. We're not going to be able to get some McBrides, the reality of it. Could we possibly get to Laporta? Even if we were to do this, I don't think you have to start including the smaller pieces like Samson. Trying to think of a move to make, because again, going right back to the tight end position, making up a higher percentage of your starting lineup output weekly. Maybe instead of Waddle being the guy that we move, maybe we look to move Reed. And if we could send like Tyler Warren, Jaden Reed to go get Sam Laporta, or whoever we take at pick 11 to just go get that marginal tight end upgrade, when the wide receiver depth with how shallow this format isn't going to make too big of a difference. I think that's another move that you can make. But I know you already said you were trying to trade away like pick 10, pick 11 to go get an upgrade in this year's rookie draft. So again, if your league mates aren't getting you the price that you want for those picks in particular, I think we go best player available like we talked about previously, pushing up the tight ends and running backs and devaluing the wide receiver depth given the format. And then later on, trying to see if we can make 2-for-1 deals to improve the starting lineup. But again, I did hook you up with that free trade question, a couple start-sit questions as well. So any questions that you have about this team, don't hesitate to follow up with me on them. I'd be super happy to look at it for you. But overall, a really strong team now that we get Ashton Genty. If you didn't get Genty in here, you'd be cooked, and I would say you have to rebuild. But bringing in Genty, you're going to be able to contend. But again, thank you, my guy. Really do appreciate you. And really hope I was able to help you out in some way here. And let's move this over. And Donovan, yeah, if anybody sends in any questions on this live stream, just let me know in the live chat if you have like any questions waiting for me on the site, and I'll go ahead and I'll answer them immediately. Like same thing here. If you're waiting for a team review and at the same time you are actually in this live stream, let me know your Flock username and I will get that team review done for you right now. But let's actually look at some of these trade questions. This one's from Tandy, who's sending Pacheco for Tucker Kraft. This is a 10-team start 10 league. Our roster, we have Daniels, Bo Nix, Caleb, Bryce Young, Bijan, James Cook, Pollard, Puka, Brian Thomas, Adams, Jefferson, Devonta Smith, JSN. So this is just a straight up juggernaut build. So what I would definitely prefer if we could is I would prefer 2-for-1, 3-for-1 deals to go get a better player than Tucker Kraft. This is a non-tight end premium format, but in reality, based off the way that your team is set up, it's not like Pacheco is going to move the needle for you much anyway. So I'm completely fine if you wanted to make the pivot and go over and get Kraft. We've been looking at this as of late, but real quick too, if y'all have not seen the latest update with the player stats on the site, definitely go check them out. This is free for anybody who wants to look at this. But so if you ever go like click on a player on the rankings page, you can see pretty much everything that you'd want to know about them. Like for instance, you can get their career yards, you can get their yards per route run, you can get the target share in their respective offense, you can get their snap rates, you can get their routes that they're running per game, whatever you want to see, right? And we can see from Tucker Kraft, you actually get the snap rate jumping from 56% up to 86% in year 2. And the yards per route run jumps up from 1.2 to 2.6. This is like the exact type of progression you want from a tight end from year 1 to year 2. So I'm completely fine with you going through and making that move. Now, Jay Bradley coming out with the trade question says, would you trade Marv, the 105, and a future first for Neighbors and the 110? This is a very aggressive move, right? So essentially, let's throw this in the trade calculator. Marvin Harrison, the 105, which can we see what this squad is? Why are the pictures not loading on this question? God, this is going to be in the 105. This is a super flex league as well. So this could be like Travis Hunter. This could be Tech McMillan. And let's even call it a late first. And us making a move for Neighbors and the 105. I'm sorry, not the 105, and the 110. Trade calculator has this as a slight win for you if this pick ends up being a late first in 2027. But let's see the difference as if this would turn out to be an early to mid first. That's an early to mid first. It's about a fair deal. My hesitation is just the value teardrop you get from the 105, which could be like, it's a 10-team Superflex league, so probably not taking Cam Ward here. But it could be like Tet McMillan, right? And if it does turn out to be Tet, which I know we're not supposed to call him that, blah, blah, blah. But if it turns out to be Tet, you are slightly losing this deal. Now, going through and looking at what these receivers did this past season, Marvin Harrison, the efficiency wasn't great. Wide receiver 41 from a points per game perspective, 1.68 yards per route, a 22% team target share. Where if we're looking at Malik Neighbors, a 35% team target share. Is just obscene. Wide receiver 7 points per game as a rookie. So I completely understand the thought process in doing this. I just think you're definitely paying a steep price. Like, you're not getting any type of discount whatsoever. If you are a confident contender where you know, hell, I'm a juggernaut, I'm going to be at the top of this league for quite some time, sure, go for the Neighbor side. But I am not super, super confident with it. Okay. But let's go back to the top here and let's get this next team review going for Lost City. And again, I want to reiterate, if anybody in the live chat has a team review waiting for me or anything, let me know that you're here and I can go ahead and I can look at it for you right this second. Just that way I can ask you additional questions and stuff. It's, I think you'll get more value out of it if you're actually here with us. But Lost City says, highly active league with a lot of trades and movements. Undertook a full rebuild using 2024 rookie picks and now some 2025 picks, as you can see. Keen to get things into a position to compete after 2 years of rebuilding. Thanks. Thank you, my guy. So looking at the team, the crazy thing is almost every time y'all send like a former rebuilding team that all of a sudden's turned the corner is good to go, y'all send it in. It's always the top team in the league, at least in terms of value with the league analyzer. This is no different. We are the number one team here by a decent little margin. If you look at this now, looking at where that value comes from quarterback. We have Daniels and Burrow as our two quarterbacks. Like, Daniels and Burrow by themselves are more valuable than the entire bottom team, or more valuable than the entire like 11th team. So that just gives you a significant advantage over the rest of your league mates, especially as we add in all these rookie picks into the mix. Now, obviously, we could add a third quarterback. Like, whether that's us deciding to look at Jackson Dart in the early second, whether that's us deciding to look at Cam Ward in the mid first, whether that's us maybe trading a second round pick, just going and getting a stopgap fill-in veteran quarterback like Stafford. But we could add a third quarterback if we are looking to contend. And I'll say real quick with this league analyzer, it tells you if you're at the top by this kind of margin, even if you were a rebuilding team, no, you should be contending it. Here, worst case scenario, let's go through and let's try to find out some of these teams at the bottom that maybe look to be rebuilding and see if we can send them like a second rounder for an old quarterback if they have one. Like, this team here, maybe they've convinced themselves that they are a contender. I mean, obviously they have some of these contending assets, but they have Darnold and Stafford, right? So if this team starts off 1-3, if this team starts off 1-4, I am quickly going through and taking our second round pick and seeing if we can offer it to them to get Matthew Stafford. Going over and checking out this roster. Quarterback, they have Young, Richardson. They have like the 109. So last thing we're going to be able to do is get a quarterback from them. This team needs a quarterback. This team does look like it's rebuilding, though. If you look at the first round picks that it has in 2026, it's sitting with 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 2026 first. They don't really have too many veteran assets that we can still pluck off their roster. Obviously, if Daniel Jones was the starting quarterback in Indy, maybe we could send them a couple late picks to just bring in Daniel Jones as a third QB. But in reality, we're not having to force this, right? In reality, we already have the additional 2026 second, where if anything were to occur where Burrow goes down for a month this next season, we can trade away a future second during the year to get that stopgap producer. Going over to running back, this is the position we have to overhaul. And this is like what every rebuilding team always experiences. Once you come out of the rebuild, once we flip the switch, turn to a contender, 9 times out of 10, you have to bolster up your running back room because you're a rebuilder, so you don't have any RBs. Thank God it is 2025 with this rookie class. And we are in the striking distance to actually bring in some rookie running backs. Now, we'll see if that actually happens, because there is a path in this rookie draft for maybe that not to be the case. But wide receiver already loaded up, right? Brian Thomas, Rashee Rice, Garrett Wilson, Zay Flowers, Olave. And based off the news I've been reading about the Rashee Rice injury, I think maybe we were too low on Rice previously, thinking that this injury was going to linger into the season. So I honestly may end up needing to move Rice ahead of A.J. Brown in our dynasty ranks up to wide receiver 15 in the same tier with Hunter, McMillan, Harrison, JSN, A.J. Brown. I think you can order these guys however you want. But the more positive news you get about Rice, the higher and higher he's going to have to go in our rankings. Because like we go ahead and you pull this up. And of course, it was a very limited sample that we had this past season. But I mean, just the 4 games, the man was averaging 3.38 yards per route run. He had a 26% team target share coming from Patrick Mahomes. Wide receiver 15 from a points per game perspective. And that's with this 0 mixed in. So in reality, if you take that out, he's at what? 22-ish points per game? Top 5 receiver. So to have him as our wide receiver 2, Wilson wide receiver 3, Flowers 4, Olave 5, Godwin 6, Downs 7. This wide receiver room does not need another body to touch it, and we are already dominating this league. Going over to tight end, we have Bowers. We don't need anything else. And this is a pretty heavy tight end premium format as well. And then you also mix in the fact that we have some depth here with somebody like Kincaid. Not going to sit here and act like Kincaid's the best tight end in the world, or he's as good as what people expected him to be. But ultimately, I think you are fine saying he's our tight end too. So all your team needs at this point to flip over to a contending build is some additional help at running back, and we could use a third quarterback. Now we're sitting with the 104 and the 106, right? So when we look at this, we're in a spot in which Cam Ward is definitely in play. I think 104, for me personally, I am still taking whichever one of these players fall. Now, pretty much every Dynasty rookie draft I was in, pretty much every Dynasty rookie draft I've seen, Hampton's the 102. That's how I have it ranked as well. Hunter, you have a very wide range of outcomes with where he's going to go. I know a lot of people are saying he should be the 102, but there are also rookie drafts where he's falling to picks 8 and 9. And then there's T-Mac at 4, which people are making an argument you can also take Henderson over him. I don't have it that way, but I can see the argument. So here's the issue. We already established that our team should be contending. We're done with this rebuild. We don't need to add another wide receiver body, and we'd be just fine. We could use a third quarterback. We can use an additional running back. We go through and look at this. There's a world in which I tell you to go best player available. Take either Travis Hunter or Ted McMillan at pick 4. Then the team at 5 takes Trevion Henderson, and then we're locked into Cam Ward at 6. And if we end up just adding, say, like Travis Hunter and Cam Ward with picks 4 and 6, while maybe they're best players available, we have Daniels and Burrow. Like, of course, Cam Ward would be a great fit here. And then wide receiver, Travis Hunter slides right between Rice and Wilson, right ahead of Rice, wherever you put him inside that same tier. And it doesn't really impact our points per game too much this next season. So, especially because we look at the 203, 204, 205, right? So 203, 204, that's picks 15 and 16. There's a world in which you're looking at Luther Burden and Jaden Higgins there as your best players available. And I don't want to lock you into like Travis Hunter, Cam Ward, and then like the 203, 204 going like Luther Burden, Jaden Higgins, and then all of a sudden having 10 viable receivers, and we're going into the season with our RB2 being Tajee Spears. So this is one of the few scenarios in which what I think I would do is I would pass on Hunter. I would pass on T-Mac at picks 4 and 6. I think we optimize to get Trevion Henderson here. Now, the question is, how do we go about that? Because we could take Henderson at 4. And then at 5, Let's see who has the 105. Let's see what they're likely to do. The team at 5 could kind of go in any direction. They have Lamar, Dak, Geno at quarterback. Wide receiver, they have Lamb, Higgins, DK, Tyreek, Reed. Can y'all please spam the chat? This team at 5, if you were them, would you take Ted McMillan or would you take Cam Ward? Ted McMillan or Cam Ward if your quarterback core is Lamar, Dak, Geno, and your wide receiver core is Lamb, Higgins, DK, Tyreek, Reed. Because if we can maybe pencil in what this team's going to do, where if it seems like this team's likely to take the receiver, you could go Henderson at 4. This is actually a much better idea. Donovan says, if I was this guy, I'd trade back one spot and ask for Geno. I mean, I think this is a great offer. Does it have any shot to get done? Let me throw this in the trade count. This is a really good idea. But I just think Geno probably has too much value, to be honest. Throwing this in the calculator has it as a fair deal. I mean, if you could move back from the 104 to the 105 and pick up Geno Smith, I think that'd be an absolute no-brainer. I think it's probably unlikely to get done. I would for sure throw in the 304 to get it done. But the issue is as well, you make that deal, you get Geno. I guess that team at 4 may take Cam Ward then at that point. But if they take like Henderson, then what the hell are we doing if Cam Ward like falls to us at 6? I'm not wanting to take Cam Ward. I'm not passing on Cam Ward at 6 for Judkins. Like, no matter what you do, you can't pass on Cam Ward for Judkins. So I like the idea. I almost think that it puts you in a spot where you may be in the same scenario. But regardless how it's situated right now, I think 104, I'm fine going ahead. I'm fine taking Henderson and making the reach. 106, taking whoever falls between those wide receivers we previously mentioned with Hunter and McMillan or Cam Ward, because Cam Ward can fit this team, right? So if we add in like Henderson and then say Cam Ward, then 108, again, you are looking at that pretty big teardrop after Judkins. And then you have a tier of like Golden through probably Harvey, probably 8 through 13 or 8 through 14 with Dart. And maybe some people are higher on Luther Burden than I am, but I think you have that tier of like Golden through Dart. And at the 108, I'm completely fine reaching on one of the running backs, whether that's Caleb Johnson or RJ Harvey. Harvey's definitely going to be more likely to help you contend right now. And I think your team should be contending. So if you go like Henderson, Cam Ward, RJ Harvey, 203, 204, best player available, whoever's still there inside the top 16 players. Like, I definitely don't think you want to be going down from like Higgins to Tootin or like Higgins to Cam Scattaboo. Like, I would stay inside that top 16. And then 205, 206, if you wanted to go like Tootin and Scattaboo there and build out the running back depth. And then we leave out of this rookie draft with Daniels, Burrow, Cam Ward, Henderson, Harvey, Aaron Jones, Scattaboo, Tootin, Tajay Spears. It's a completely revamped running back room where it's probably going to be a little weak at the beginning of the season, but by the time to the end of the year, you're going to be in a great spot. Wide receiver, Brian Thomas, Rice, Wilson, Flowers, Olave, Godwin, Luther Burden, Jaden Higgins. Tight end, Brock Bowers. Yeah, by far and away the best team here with depth at every single position. Maybe a little bit underweight at running back, but another possibility of what you could do is maybe look to trade these like 205, 206 picks and swing for like DeAndre Swift, Brian Robinson, those veteran one-year rentals. I think that's something else that you could look at as well. But I really do appreciate you and really hope I was able to help you out here in some way, my friend. And yeah, best of luck in your rookie draft. And again, I really hope I was able to help you out. But let's move this next team review over for G Money. This is a team on FFPC, so it's actually going to take me a little bit of time to dive into this, my guy. So give me 1 second. I'll circle back to this and I'll get you in a personalized podcast. But yeah, and then I'm also going to work on, and by I'm going to work on, I mean, I'm going to send to the developers to work on. We're going to eventually get it where with the site, you can link your FFPC team. Like we definitely have like a bunch of, so just pulling back the curtain real quick on what we're doing. It's like, obviously we have like a roadmap of everything we want to be investing with the site. If y'all are members of the site, hopefully you can tell that it's getting better literally every single day. Every single day or every other day, we're trying to push things out. Right now, what we've been focusing on for a while is like things that we can push out and update to, and it helps everybody across the board, whether you play on Sleeper, MFL, FFPC, regardless of what it is. But once we get through all that like low hanging fruit where we can push out new tools that help everybody, then we'll circle back around and we'll go like, hey, maybe only 1% of people play on FFPC, but let's go ahead and let's link that for that 1%. But right now we're just trying to get like things that help the 100%, if that makes sense. But again, I'll get you set up with that with a personalized podcast. Anyway, this team review coming out from Bobby. Appreciate you. This is Bobby Lovis. I'm going to operate under the assumption. Let me pull this up on the team reviews page just so I can be 1,000% sure. And of course, if y'all have not done so already, ladies and gentlemen, make sure you drop a like on this live stream. I would venture to say that everybody here has subscribed. I'd be surprised if that is not the case, but if you're not subscribed, subscribe as well. But yeah, this is the second team in the League Analyzer. This is the most standard Dynasty League format you're going to see. 12 team, start 10, PPR, half point tight end premium format. We have all our 2026 picks. We have all our 2027 picks, and we have an additional 2027 first. So we have added flexibility down the road. So first things first here, we're looking at this team from like a zoomed out perspective. Quarterback, tight end, extremely strong. Running back, wide receiver is going to be difficult to contend with these rooms. So I think as we go through and as we look at this roster, a big thing that we kind of have to figure out is how can we put ourselves in a position where we have the possibility of contending while maybe not necessarily selling future first and sacrificing our long-term upside. Because there is a very real world scenario in which Chuba Hubbard goes back to who he was 2 years ago. Jaden Daniels gets injured, and all of a sudden this team needs to rebuild. Like, I'm not saying that's a guarantee, of course, but that is in the range of outcomes. So for us, if we were to start selling like our 2026 first, our 2026 second, and then afterwards in week 3, we get a Jaden Daniels injury, and then all of a sudden we sold our future picks, we can't rebuild anymore, and we have no way to contend, that's the worst place to possibly be in. This is not a juggernaut to the point where I think we can afford to sell our future picks. But at the same time, we definitely have a good shot to go into the season as a contender and take down this league. So I want to give ourselves the ability to build as a contender here, but not sacrificing the safety net of pivoting to a rebuild if we really need to. But looking at quarterback, love Daniels Goff as our top 2 guys. Really the only thing that we could possibly say is obviously we could use a third QB here. That's not going to be that's hot of a take. I mean, the issue is like list of priorities. What's more important for this roster? Getting a third quarterback or us finding a way in which we can bring in another running back or two? Because to sit here with Hubbard as our running back 1, Najee Harris is our running back 2, and then having no depth beyond this. Jonathan Brooks is already ruled out this season. I mean, Marshawn Lloyd, hopefully, is the RB2 in Green Bay. So I would almost say if we wanted to contend this year, we can't afford to go out there and get a third quarterback. We have to address the running back position first. Wide receiver, we have JSN, Wilson, Olave, Judy, Higgins, Reed, and that's about it. We don't have much depth beyond. And then Bowers, Schultz at tight end, we are just fine. So looking at this team top to bottom, I think we are a well-balanced, not really a well-balanced team. I think we're a strong team that needs to make moves that it's very difficult to find a way to do so. Because so much of our value is tied up in Jaden Daniels and Brock Bowers. Like, I almost think that given the lack of potential starters we have at running back, and it's not like we are overloaded with wide receiver depth and top end names, I think we may have to explore the possibility of tearing down from Daniels or Bowers and asking for a king's ransom. Now, for the love of God, and this is a very genuine thing I'm about to say, please make sure before you would ever trade away a player like Daniels or Bowers, you use the trade calculator on the site. Our site has been the only one that I've ever been able to see manage to accurately value these guys that are the true blue chip studs. Because I've seen a lot of other trade calculators where you can go through and you could just start adding in like a bunch of mid-tier pieces and then put 4 quarters together and somehow find a way to make it equal $1, right? Which in reality, like, you should be valuing these elite assets like Daniels as almost untouchable pieces unless you can get a king's ransom. So when we are looking at making trades like that, a big issue is there are going to be very few teams in your league that could even afford to approach you for a Jaden Daniels or a Brock Bowers trade. So, like, we can't go down and look at these teams at the very bottom end of the league analyzer. What the hell is this team going to give you? But maybe this team at the top we can. This team at the top has Bijan, Jefferson, Brian Thomas, London, Tet McMillan. They have Judkins, Chase Brown. So they have a ton of different assets. And they have a clear tier down at quarterback that we can go to for Justin Herbert, right? So the building block of a trade like this would be us asking for the tier down from Daniels to Herbert and seeing what we can get added on additionally. So it'd be like Herbert and then maybe seeing if we can get a Brian Thomas and then a depth RB like Judkins. Which if we could make this type of trade, I 100% would look to do so. Trade calculator even says you're getting more than enough value for Daniels here, saying that you even slightly win the deal. So we're probably gonna have to take one of those pieces out. And instead of getting Judkins, maybe what you could look at is getting Chase Brown. And again, if you're going in line with wanting to be a contending team, that's something that we could look at as well. This team doesn't have a future first. We're just trying to have to find a way to get depth from this guy. Instead of Brian Thomas and Chase Brown, another offer that you could have is Bijan and a depth receiver like Ricky Pearsall. So going from Daniels to Herbert, but also picking up Bijan and the depth receiver as well. God dang. Sorry about the dog. She'll stop in a second. But looking at what the team would be after that, we'd be able to have like Herbert, Goff at quarterback, which obviously our quarterback room would be much, much worse. But then you go over to running back and we're sitting with Bijan, Hubbard, Najee, and we have an additional depth wide receiver. Like there, I think you could at least give yourself the illusion of we're good to go and we are contending. Now, obviously, another way that we could go about this, if you don't want to tear down from Daniels, is tearing down from Bowers. The thing is, you're just not going to get nearly as much, of course. But the tear down from Bowers would be instead, we're tearing down to Kincaid, which I want to stress, this is a massive, 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 massive fall. We need to find a way to get some of these added on running backs. So we're getting, say, Chase Brown And outside of Chase Brown, we can't ask for both of his RBs. We may end up needing to ask for like, his London's probably too much as well. Let's see what the trade calculator says. Like, you go from Bowers, get back London, Chase Brown, and Kincaid. Trade calc has that as a fair deal in a tight end premium format. I think those are really the only moves that I see making on a roster like this. It is definitely awkward because we're never wanting to trade away these elite pieces like Daniels or Bowers. But based off the way that your team is situated, I think you may have to make it. Because again, I would prefer trying to contend with this team. I don't want to sell our future first because I think it can get real ugly real quick if we begin to do that. So while I'm not super excited about it, I think you may have to do a 1-for-2 tier down. But I really do appreciate you and really hope I was able to help you out in some way, my friend. Now let's move this over to T Love. It says, thank you for all the content. Thank you for being a member of the flock, my guy. Here, we are the number one team in the league analyzer. It's not like we're running away with this. There's another team that's kind of close to us that's kind of in the same ballpark, right? This is going to be a shallower format. This is a 10-team Superflex start 9 league. So quarterback depth, like the Bryce Young, the Matthew Stafford, the Geno Smith, they are not going to matter as much. But since it's only a start 9 format, the wide receiver depth pieces don't matter, and the elite quarterbacks make up a higher percentage of our starting lineup output. So overall, across the board, depth, not super important. Top end studs, we're placing an even larger premium on them. Quarterback, we have that top end stud. We have Josh Allen. This is a big reason why we are the most valuable team in this league. We can look at our quarterback value with the combo of Allen, Drake May, and CJ Stroud and see that we have more value just with our quarterbacks than like the bottom 3 teams have on their entire roster. So quarterback, there's nothing to discuss. There's nothing to do. We're sitting pretty. Going over and looking at running back, we have Bijan, Walker, Kamara, Javonte. So we have the top end production, the building block pieces, and then we have depth littered throughout as well. Now, every single one of these assets I would sell in a rebuilding team. Like, I don't necessarily think any of them are going to be increasing in dynasty value over the next 12 months. Now, with that being said, you're not a rebuilding team, we're a contending team. So this is the exact thing that we want at running back. Going over to receiver, I would say that this is almost the weakest position on the team, which is kind of funny because obviously it's still strong. Love having Neighbors at wide receiver 1, but the difficulty is we have a pretty big drop off after that. After that, we have Flowers, Waddle, DK, Judy, Godwin, Ridley, Leggett, Cup. So we have like 8 guys that have value beyond Malik Neighbors. But out of those 8 players, this isn't best ball. You're not going to be able to just randomly. I mean, if this is a best ball league, you do nothing, my friend. You are winning this league by a country mile. You go into this season like this and you're crushing your league mates. However, I'm assuming that this is going to be a league you have to submit your starting lineup every single week. And if that's the case, good freaking luck picking between these receivers outside of Malik Neighbors. What I would look to do here is I would try my absolute best to try to sell some of this wide receiver depth, consolidate, and get a standout player. Get somebody near the top that is going to certifiably move the needle for you. Going over and looking at tight ends. We have Bowers, so there's nothing to discuss there. Really the only thing that we could even talk about is these rookie picks that we're sitting with. The only potential move is looking at these rookie picks, figuring out what we can do with them to consolidate and improve value inside the starting lineup. And in my mind, the number one spot to be doing that is with our wide receiver pieces, with Flowers, with Waddle, with Metcalf, with Judy. So if we can take pick 9, if we can take pick 13, where in reality, we go ahead and we pull up what we have with the board at that point. Again, you're not going to get Judkins, Henderson, Ward, McMillan, Hunter. They're all gone. Pick 9, you're looking at your choice of Golden, Igbuka, Loveland, Warren, Caleb Johnson, RJ Harvey. Up to you, whatever order you want. And in that scenario, do any of those players really move the needle for you? Probably not. So I would love to see if we could take the 109, send him with Flowers to go get an upgrade from somebody else that's possibly rebuilding. Now, issue is 10-team league. Everybody's going to think that they're a contender. But like, is there any world in which we can bring in Ladd McConkey from this team here at the bottom, right? We send them Flowers, the 109, and that pick 13. So, like, just to map out what these players actually look like. Say the 109's Igbuka. And pick 13's like Luther Burden. Or actually, it's probably like Loveland. Or, I mean, if you can do this, Trade Calculator's saying that you lose, but in reality, I'm fine losing when it comes to the value of this, if it means we can consolidate and get a better player up top. Maybe instead of trying to send the 203, instead we try to send a late second, like the 209, because you are going to be looking at a teardrop. You're not going to have access to like those tight ends. Or if you can send like Flowers, the 109, in the 209 to get to Ladd McConkey, that would be an absolute no-brainer. Let's see if there's anybody else here that we could look at a similar type trade with. This team, I would say they're probably planning on contending, right? They're sitting with Evans, CMC, Hubbard, but if there's any world in which CMC is on the table, making a play for McCaffrey would be beautiful. 11 an elevator is probably a no-go. This team has like Addison, Olave, Pickens. Like, we're not trying to trade for more wide receiver twos, right? We're trying to consolidate where we can. So another possibility of what we can do is if we can find a team that actually needs some help with their wide receiver depth, which, to just be honest, it's going to be very few rosters outside of maybe this one. When we're sitting with just an insane amount of wide receiver starters and we don't have that top end player to separate, another possibility of what we could try is we could try taking some of these wide receiver twos, whether that's Metcalf, Waddle, Flowers, Judy, Godwin, it doesn't matter whoever your league mate's most interested in, and seeing if we can package them with the running back to go get an RB upgrade. So like, is there a 3-for-1 deal that we can get done to try to go get Jahmyr Gibbs? So like maybe sending, say, Walker, Flowers, and the 109. Is there any world in which we can get to Gibbs here? Probably not. Gibbs is probably too high of an upgrade. Let me see. Is there any other team that could use wide receiver depth? Like HN would almost be a better example. It'd be great if that HN team needed a receiver. This Jacobs and Henry team needs one, but in reality, I think you're in such a strong spot. You're really only incentivized to trade for the guys that have the extended runway as well. One thing that we could do is look at this team right below us that has both Daniels and Lamar and see if there's any world in which we can try to move over and quote unquote overpay to get up to like Daniels, where if we can send our Drake May, the 109, and a depth receiver like Flowers to get to Jaden Daniels, given your strength and the shallowness of this league, I think that's another move that we would look to make. So overall, what we need to be doing with this team, 2-for-1, 3-for-1 deals to get the best player in return. The main pieces I'm looking to sell, wide receiver depth. Plan A, sell the wide receiver depth just for a better receiver, consolidate the 9 guys we have here into maybe 6 or 7, but with the second and third best wide receivers in our room being much better. Plan B is maybe taking some of these rookies that we have incoming, packaging them with the running back too, and seeing if we can go get an upgrade here. So the last thing I want to do is like take Luther Burden to 2 or 3. What the hell does Luther Burden do for this team? And then plan C is taking these assets, throwing in a depth receiver, and seeing if we can go get just another elite level quarterback to put next to Allen. But I really do appreciate you, my friend. I really hope I was able to help you out in some way with this. And again, thank you so much for being a member of the flock. But I saw a message in the chat saying that we have somebody that's waiting for a question to be answered on the site. Let me pull up what this is. This is from Ekra 1234. Perfect. Okay, let's pull this up. And again, if anybody in this live stream has any questions waiting for us on the site, let me know. I'd be happy to look at that ASAP. But this is Kyren, Kamara, and a future first for Gibbs. So you're definitely paying a premium, right? But the thing when we look at this that we have to at least acknowledge is, and I'm going to first say, I'm drafting obviously a bunch of underdog teams right now. Kyren there is going round 3. I'm taking Kyren consistently in round 3 of redraft leagues this year. I think Kyren's set up to absolutely crush again. But Kyren isn't the tier of running back that we know for a damn fact he's going to be a 3-down workhorse next season. He has the shot to do it. He has the possibility to do it. But there is a scenario in which Kyren Williams is worth half or 25% his dynasty value today, 12 months from now. There's a scenario in which Kamara is a literal 0 12 months from now. So if you play this out and you try to look forward 12 months, Jahmyr Gibbs is going to be the more valuable side. Especially if this future first ends up being a late 2026 first. Then you easily win. But also, if we're looking at the expected points per game output between Kamara and Kyren this next season versus Gibbs, it's probably not super, super different. I'd rather have Gibbs this next year than Kamara and Kyren in a redraft league. But overall, because of the uncertainty with Kyren in comparison to the NFL draft capital and team investment that Gibbs has, keep in mind, Kyren going to year 4 of his NFL career as well at the very end of his rookie deal. I think that it makes the most sense for you to just go ahead and push in, get Gibbs, get the cornerstone piece where you don't have to question where the value is going to be going. But let me move this over and check this out for our next team from Cappy17. Really appreciate you, my friend. Excited to look at this for you. Saying, thinking about trading Amon-Ra for the 102 and the 107. Plan would be to take Hampton at 2 and trade for or draft a wide receiver with the 107, either London or Higgins. If not, then draft Kyle Williams 206, Jaden Blue 306. I don't know if Blue's going to be there. Quarterback and wide receiver in the 4th. What are we thinking? I will say quickly that do not be trying to map out all the way through the 4th round of your rookie draft. I just want to be on the same page. More likely than not, whoever you take in the 4th round of your rookie draft is going to be entirely useless. Will be a literal 0. But if you were able to move Amon-Ra for the 102 and the 107, this is a 10-team superflex format. So Amon-Ra for the 102 and the 107, that is effectively Judkins and Hampton versus Amon-Ra St. Brown. And in this scenario, I'm completely fine going with the running backs if we need the production from RB and we already have it at wide receiver. Looking at us in the league analyzer, there are 4 teams that look like they're in it. They know what they're doing. And then there's the rest of the league. We are in those 4 teams. We are the second team in this league analyzer. Looking at the rest of our wide receiver room, we have Chase, Neighbors, and Rashee Rice. So moving Amon-Ra St. Brown to get Hampton and to get Judkins, I think it makes a ton of sense, and I would sign off on it. Because then you go into the season, we have Chase, Neighbors, Rice at wide receiver. We're probably contending there. Running back, we have Bucky, Hampton, Judkins, Pacheco, Tracy. We're probably contending there. Quarterback, we have Lamar, Caleb, McCarthy. We're probably contending there. And tight end, we have Andrews and Kraft. So you would have a very top-heavy team at every position. Maybe not a ton of depth down here at like wide receiver, but frankly, it's a 10-team start 9 format. So you would have your team built exactly how we would want it. Exactly. And yeah, I mean, I would say like here in the middle of the second round, this pick 13, right? You're in a 10-team league. That 205 is pick 13. You're still in a very good tier. You're not looking at Kyle Williams. If you wanted to backfill wide receiver depth, there's a chance you get Golden or Igbuka at 13. There's a chance you get Luther Burden at 13. Or, I mean, preferably over Burden, Caleb Johnson, RJ Harvey. So this is pick 15. I'm an idiot, even in a 10-team league. Never mind. You're looking at like Luther Burden, Jaden Higgins. So I apologize. But still, nonetheless, you are able to backfill your wide receiver depth there. I don't think you take Kyle Williams over those guys. Looking at the 306, this is pick 26, which is right there with Jaden Blue, Dylan Sampson. You got a couple tight ends. Tyler Shuck. But 10-team league, I probably don't go in that direction. Yeah, if you want to go Jaden Blue, I'm all for it. But I 100% think that you are in the right to make that deal with Amon-Ra. Quarterback, Lamar, Caleb McCarthy, I'm not doing anything else. Running back, the only scenario is maybe your league's weird and maybe Travis Hunter goes behind Judkins. And if Travis Hunter goes behind Judkins, then maybe at that point, we still need running back help because then we'd be adding Hunter, but at running back, we'd only have Hampton coming in. So we'd be sitting with Bucky, Hampton, Pacheco, Tracy, Jordan Mason, ETN. But hell, you could even get by with that running back room. I wouldn't change anything going into week 1. It's a non-tight end premium format, so it's not like tight end super important. We have Andrews and Kraft already, so it's not like we need to stress too much about it. So I love the team. I think it's a juggernaut. I think making the Amon-Ra St. Brown trade is a no-brainer for your roster. Again, 205, I'm not necessarily looking at Kyle Williams. I think you can get a better wide receiver prospect like Luther Burden, Jaden Higgins. 306, and then like the 4th, do whatever the hell you want to do. Just kind of go best player available with how your team's situated. But I really appreciate you. I wish I had more for you. But again, you have the best quarterback room in your league, the best wide receiver room in your league. You're about to make a trade that helps out a ton at running back. I did hook you up with the free trade question, free starts at question stuff. So if that trade falls through and instead you're looking at a different trade for an RB, please feel free to send it over my way. I'd be super happy to take a look at it for you, my guy. But again, thank you so much for everything. Now let's move this over for bad news. Saying, should I consolidate wide receiver depth? This is like maybe the 6th time in this live stream, right? Where we've looked at a team and I've gone, move this wide receiver depth, get a better wide receiver 2, get a better wide receiver 3. We have 8 usable guys here. We don't need that many. This may be very different. And the reason for that is this is the league format that I play most of my dynasty leagues in. This is a 12-team Superflex start 11 PPR tight end premium. Pretty big tight end premium as well. So because this is a start 11 format, we are actually in a spot where it's completely viable to build out the wide receiver depth. You have 8-9 receivers. Good luck to the rest of your league mates to be able to keep up with the points that you're putting out there in week 6 when half the league's on bye or injured. But anyway, came in second twice, sold off for capital, turned it into Jinty, Igbuka, Jefferson, Godwin, Diggs, Mason, Montgomery. Still have some picks to make moves, but do we sit until the season or do we go with more leverage? Okay. So I think this is the Mike is bad news team. Yep, this team does have Ashton Jinty. And let's just first off address a couple things. One, this team does not have our own 2026 first round pick. So again, I mean, we've said this 1,000 times now, but when we don't have our own 2026 first, we are highly incentivized to win right now. Like, there's no world in which we can pull the ripcord. We can transition over if Bo Nix gets injured to a rebuilding team and guarantee ourselves an early pick next year. Nope. Almost everything that we're going to be doing is through the lens of how can we contend this year, but at the same time, not lose out on a tremendous amount of long-term value. Second thing that I want to address, again, with this being a start 11 formats, let's just go through and let's submit the starting lineup, quote unquote, right now, so we can just get a gauge of like the wide receiver depth mattering. 2 of those spots come from the quarterback with Bo Nix, Brock Purdy. 2 of those spots coming from running back with Genty, Montgomery. 1 of those spots coming from tight end with Trey McBride. So we have 6 spots need to be filled out by a wide receiver. I'm not throwing Tootin in our lineup. I'm not throwing Jordan Mason in our lineup if I don't have to. I'm not throwing Ben Sinnott in our lineup if we don't have to. So out of those 6 spots, we have Jefferson, Nico, JSN, Worthy. Those 4 are absolute locks. And then we have 2 more guys that we got to figure out between Igbuka, Jameson, Ricky Pearsall, Godwin, Diggs. So that's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Diggs, Godwin, coming off significant injuries. Igbuka, bad situation year 1. Love the long-term outlook. Week 1, what we're throwing Jameson and Ricky Pearsall in at the very bottom end. And looking at Igbuka, Godwin, Diggs as long-term upside pieces for this next season to get us through the buys. So what I'd be doing with this team is, honestly, I wouldn't be like looking to trade Ricky Pearsall and Igbuka to go get a better wide receiver. I wouldn't be looking to trade Jameson and JSN to go get a better wide receiver. If you wanted to sell off wide receiver depth here, it would be in a way in which we are selling the wide receiver depth to build out depth elsewhere, because this depth in your format is going to be incredibly important. Now, looking at the fact that we don't have our 2026 first, and again, I think that we are highly incentivized to maybe go through and look to contend this next season, what I may look to do is take a long-term asset that maybe would be very exciting for a rebuilding team like Igbuka. Like if I was a rebuilder, Igbuka is the exact kind of guy you want. Great wide receiver prospect on a stable team long-term with the quarterback play. Wide receiver, you have Evans, Chris Godwin, both aging out. Like this is exactly what you're looking for on a rebuilding team. Now for us, we're a contender. I'm not excited to get this guy in my starting lineup this next season. We have very clear kind of needs. We don't have a QB3. We don't have a running back 3. We don't have a backup tight end. So instead of like, again, moving 2 wide receivers and consolidating up to a better guy, I wouldn't be opposed to instead selling Igbuka to a rebuilder to see if we can build up some depth at other positions. So like going down, this King Mikey team probably needs to rebuild, right? But they don't have their own 2026 first. So in reality, they may not be willing to. They should. Going over here, this is an interesting spot. This Bishop Sycamore team, they have the big Q. They have Quentin Johnston as their second receiver. They have Isaac Tesla as their third wide receiver. Dylan Sampson's their third running back. Tyler Shuck's their second quarterback. This team has no business in contending this next season. They have some contending assets. If I was a rebuilder, I'm doing everything I can to sell Joe Mixon. If I was a rebuilder, I'm doing everything I can to sell Evan Ingram. So is there a world in which we can approach this team and we can go, hey man, I'll give you Igbuka. You give me back starting points, these guys that may be worth literally nothing in 12 months when you're maybe ready to contend with Mixon and Ingram, and see what else we can get. Because we put this into the trade calculator. You're saying you're getting absolutely robbed. Because again, big thing is Joe Mixon and Evan Ingram could be zeros 12 months from now. I know I saw that they don't have their own first round picks, but this team's cooked no matter what, right? This team, we saw they didn't have their own first round pick, and I'm like, maybe they can convince themselves that there's something. This team is Tyler Shuck as their second quarterback. Quentin Johnston is their second wide receiver. There's no way that this team ever convinces themselves that they are contending. So what else could we maybe get from them? Is there a way that we could get Tua? Because if you're able to get Tua on here, which it's saying you clearly win at that point. So we're actually going to have to add in a 2026 second. If you can go like Egbuka in a 2026 second and get back Tua, Ingram, Mixon, obviously we are sacrificing the long-term value here. Tua is the only asset that could possibly be worth more in Dynasty on this side 12 months from now than he is today. But you send the rebuilding pieces, you bring in, say, Tua as a quarterback 3. Bam, that helps our quarterback room. We bring in Mixon, comes in at RB2, slides Montgomery down to RB3, slides Tootin down to RB4. We bring in Evan Ingram as a quality backup behind McBride. It's a pretty big tight end premium format as well. In a start 11 league, you could possibly start Evan Ingram. This is what I would almost look to do with our wide receiver depth rather than trying to consolidate wide receivers. Let's see if we can maybe play around with like this team again that, in my opinion, probably should be looking. I mean, this team's just gross. I don't want to mess with that team. Let's look at this one. This team is CMC, London Higgins. They're going to contend. This team quarterback, they have Dart, Rodgers, Shadur Sanders. This team's rebuilding, right? There's no way this team has any juice. In terms of contending assets, they have like Pollard, they have Andrews, but they just simply don't have like enough value, right? Like if we go through and if we try to start adding in all the pieces that they would want to get off their team from a rebuilding perspective, like Andrews and Tony Pollard, they're just simply not close to Egbuka in terms of the value that they can provide. Is there like maybe throw in Josh Downs and that gets us somewhere? But like I look at this, I would still rather have Egbuka. Rebuilding teams, for whatever reason, think that Sharp's going to do something for them. Maybe we get Najee thrown in too, and we really just bolster our depth for this next season. I definitely like the other deal more than this one. Because again, Pollard and Najee, Pollard, Najee, more likely than not are zeros 12 months from now. Mark Andrews, I don't know. You go ahead and look at what Andrews has done and where he's trending. Obviously, tight end 8 last year from a points per game perspective, not too bad. The worst he's been since 2018, I will point out. But the main thing that you need to see with Andrews is when he was a top 5 tight end in fantasy, 24%, 25%, 26%, 29%, 22% of his team's target share. This past year, 15%. That fell dramatically. And I know a lot of people are going like, oh, he was much better in the second half of the season, which is true. But if you look at where all these points are coming from, it's only touchdowns. That's where all the production came from. He has a career high 11 touchdowns off of almost a career low 4.1 targets per game. So I'm not super pumped about getting Andrews here. It's like maybe we can approach that team and see if we can pick up that crap just at an extremely sharp discount. This team is clearly rebuilding, but they don't have really anything to offer. This team is Pittman wide receiver 2. But they're built around like Achane, Barkley, Taylor, so they're going to think that they're contending. So really, again, I want to circle back. Don't consolidate wide receivers. Go approach some of those rebuilding teams. Egbuka is a great player. If I was a rebuilder, I would be ecstatic to send off guys like Mixon, Evan Ingram, et cetera, to go get them. I would go try to make a couple of those moves and put yourself at a spot where we're a lot more comfortable at running back, quarterback, tight end going into the season. But I would want to keep the majority of our wide receiver depth here. But I really do appreciate you. Like I said, I did also hook you up with that free start to question, the free trade question as well, just in case you have any other follow-ups that you want to have with this team. But again, thank you, my guy. I really do appreciate you. Now, let's move this over to a long-time member of the flock, and Jameser. If y'all don't know, he has been with us for a long, long, long time. Maybe since like 2020, 2021. I don't exactly know. But appreciate you, my friend. Going to be excited to look at your team. Saying, trying to figure out what we can do through trade and get ready for a run. We offered Hurts, Connor, a 2026 second for Collins and Terry. Ooh, I do not like this at all. Let me make sure I'm putting this. We offered Hurts. Yeah, Hurts is just almost untouchable here in my mind. Connor in a second. For Collins and Terry. I really hope this trade has not gone through. Yeah, the trade calculator agrees with me. I think you clearly lose that. Just not sure the quarterback upgrades. Oh, no, wait. Oh, you were offered Hurts. If you were offered Hurts, my guy, you make this deal. Actually, can I make sure that everybody in the chat agrees with me in the trade calculator here? What side would you all rather have? Would you rather have Jalen Hurts, James Conner in a second, or Nico Collins and Terry McLaurin in a 12-team Superflex? Please let me know in the chat. Do you want the Hurts side or the Nico Collins side? Because I thought it was easily Hurts. Trade calculator says it's easily Hurts as well. Let me know if I'm off. We got Hurts. Okay. So it looks like the chat agrees to. So yeah, my guy, I think you have to make that deal. I offered Collins and Kenneth Walker for Bijan and Downs. He wants Collins. He's a Houston guy. How do I improve? First thing is, you for sure trade this dude Nico Collins. Please. I definitely say one quarterback, give me Collins, but Superflex, give me Hurts. But yeah, number one thing is that is worth it. We have Tyler Shuck as our third quarterback, so obviously bringing another quarterback makes sense. Mahomes, QB2, Dak, QB3, beautiful spot to be in. What I would almost rather do, if we could, let's go see that team that has Jalen Hurts. This team that has Hurts has Daniels and May as well. So he'll need a third quarterback. So one thing that I would do that honestly he may be excited about, I would look to keep our second round pick and give him Tyler Shuck instead. Or, actually, I'm sorry. That's on the opposite end, right? We are the one getting the 2026 second, which, yeah, makes this even crazier. But if we give him Tyler Shuck just as like a, hey, here's a QB3 that I don't really need anymore. Can he give us another guy? God dang, his team is set up weird. Who could he toss back in our direction? F it. I'm not even going to play around with that. Just go make that initial deal. Go get Jalen Hurts. But yeah, you make that Hurts deal. Tyler Shuck shows anything, we can immediately sell him. But in that instance, we've sold Nico and Terry McLaurin, and we actually probably do need some wide receiver depth. So what I may look to do instead, you know what you could try, is giving him Tyler Shuck and getting back another receiver, because your wide receiver depth would be a little bit tough at that point. Like getting back Evans and even letting him keep his second rounder. I think that could be interesting. But going over to running back, we have Genty, Taylor, Walker. We have Giddens for the Taylor handcuff. We don't really have much depth beyond this, but running back, we're extremely strong at the top end, right? It's a start 10 format, not a start 11 format. So it's not necessarily like the running back depth is everything here. Wide receiver, we have Jefferson, we're going to still have Amon-Ra St. Brown. We're still going to have A.J. Brown. But we'll have 3 elite receivers and then no depth beyond this. Tight end, we have Kittle and Andrews. We're clearly a contending team. We don't have our 2026 first. So just thinking through this, the downfall of this team after we make the Nico Collins, Terry McLaurin for Jalen Hurts trade. Who else are we getting? We're getting another guy, right? We're getting James Conner too. So we're going to have an additional running back depth piece. So running back will be fine. We just need an extra wide receiver in that case. So let's make the Jalen Hurts trade. And then from there, I know it's maybe crazy to say, but one, I think it will jump us to the top team in the league analyzer. I think that team at 1, that's a Houston fanboy, he is going to lose his top spot to go and get his Texan. Drew says he wouldn't even want to counter. He just want to take the deal and run. But what I would want to do to follow up on that, where all of a sudden Burton and Isaiah Bond, Joshua Palmer are top wide receivers, I think you may actually have to down tier from like Jefferson, St. Brown, AJ Brown. Since we're a contending team, I don't know if really anybody's going to be excited to give us value for AJ Brown that's anything more than how we value him ourselves for our builds. So what I would probably look to do is actually down tier from Amon-Ra St. Brown and see if we can find a team that can afford to pay up for him. Like an example of this is we send Amon-Ra to get back an additional starter. We get back Jackson Smith and Jigba. So obviously we're taking maybe like a, let me see, 3 points per game dip. Let me check this out. Amon-Ra St. Brown over the past 3 seasons, 16.5, 20.5, 18.5 points per game. So just baseline at 18.5 points per game. JSN this past year sitting at 14.5. So you would hope JSN improves going into his 3rd season. Say he's up at 15.5 points per game. So yeah, a dip of like 3 points per game from tearing down from Amon-Ra St. Brown to JSN. But if you can pick up Tet McMillan as well, maybe that makes sense. Just because we'll only have 3 wide receivers really left on our team. So if we can go through and make a move like that, it would be interesting. This team doesn't have enough receiver firepower. This team, similar spot to you. They don't have the depth. They have the top end names. This team has some depth here. They have Puka, Wilson, Smith, Pickens, DJ Moore. But like tearing down to, this is a rebuilding roster, which is going to be an issue. And I don't think a rebuilding team is going to be really excited to trade for St. Brown or AJ Brown. God, where's all the wide receiver depth in this league? It's like every team we pull up, other than a Tribe Called Quest, which again, this is like the JSN trade we talked about. They have like strong wide receiver production at the top. They don't have depth beyond it though. This team is Jack Bash is their 3rd option. And this team is Brian Thomas, Harrison, Rice, Ayuk, Reed. Maybe if you can go for like Harrison and Rice. It's another move that we could look at. Just getting that additional wide receiver starter for your roster. Tight end, since we're a contender, we have Kittle and Andrews. They're going to be more valuable to us than they would be for anybody else. Even adding in James Conner, Taylor, Walker, Connor, Genty, more valuable to us than they are to anybody else. Really, let's make the Jalen Hurts trade. Let's look to tear down from Amon-Ra St. Brown. Those 2 teams that we pointed out are probably the best chances we have. Like the thing is, Jefferson just kind of in a completely different tier where I would really not want to tear down from Jefferson if we could avoid it. This team is Higgins and Worthy. You could also do like a, I think we'd maybe need to ask for more than this though, which is issue. Yeah, we're losing this, and this other team wouldn't have enough value outside of Higgins and Worthy to make a trade anyway. So I think really you only have those two possibilities. And Drew says flip the second to a rebuilding team for a receiver. That's also a great point of what you can do as well. With that initial trade that you were talking about, if you're getting that dude's 2026 second rounder, definitely flip that immediately and just try to bring another wide receiver in. But great team. I think it's going to be even better when you get Jalen Hurts added on. And again, from that point, what we'd be looking to accomplish is trying to sell a top-end stud out receiver to tier down to two still very good players, but maybe not in the class of an Amon-Ra St. Brown. And then also that additional second rounder you get. Maybe just pick up an extra veteran guy you could throw in your lineup. But really do appreciate you and really hope I was able to help you out in some way with that, my guy. Now, let's move this over to our next team. This is Jetash Ford. This is home league with a lot of trash talking. Best kind of league. This is our fourth year together, but just drafted a fresh startup last week now that everyone knows how Dynasty works. I've been a perpetual rebuilder in the last league and want to contend. Talk my squad up in case my league mates watching. Thanks. Appreciate you, my guy. First thing I will say is this is clearly a league that just got out of a startup based off how close everybody is. Minus Seth at the very bottom. If you're Seth and you come out of a startup draft with this roster, RIP, my friend. Who the hell did you take in round one? Did you take CJ Stroud in round, like what were you doing? But regardless, outside of Seth's team, everybody else kind of in a similar range. Maybe the Trey Benson team. Also, it's like, brother, who did you take in round one? Maybe they just kind of made some bad trades. But regardless, we are Q's daddy. We are in the mix with a decent little squad here. Looks like the value gap that we need to overcome is going to be at running back and quarterback. This is going to be a super flex 12-team start 11 PPR format with a pretty big tight end premium. So this is a league in which wide receiver depth matters a ton, right? Going back, I think we looked at another league like this maybe 3 or 4 teams ago. And just to do that kind of same exercise of trying to figure out like how many wide receivers we actually need to be getting into the starting lineup with all the flex spots here. Let's just say quarterback, we're starting 2 guys, Caleb and hopefully Richardson. We'll see if he starts. Running back, we're starting 2 guys with Judkins and then God knows who. Friggin' Jaden Blue's there as well. But those are 4 spots. Loveland is our 5th. So we need 6 spots coming from wide receiver. We have Neighbors, St. Brown, Tet McMillan, Addison, Evans, and then the last spot either being Ayuk or Kupp. And if Ayuk and Kupp are both productive, and we have Tet McMillan not busting, we have Addison not suspended, all goes perfect with this wide receiver, and we only have 1 guy on the bench. But here's my concern with this team is we are built around some of these win now pieces, while at the same time, we have no shot whatsoever to win now. No chance. Now we have a lot of value on this team because I think we have a lot of long-term value. But we're not contending with Anthony Richardson and Russell Wilson as our second, third quarterbacks. We are not contending with Judkins, Blue, Benson as our first, second, third running backs. We're not really, I'm not going to say we're bad, but it's not like we're in a great spot with Loveland as our tight ends, at least for this season. Long-term, very different story. So I know wide receiver is our strength, but I would sit here and go, we can't really contend with this team right now. So what are we doing with Evans, Kupp, Ayuk? Those would be 3 players that I would say you almost need to sell them. And more likely than not, they will be worth less 12 months from now than they are today. Almost guaranteed Kupp and Evans will be worth less 12 months from now. Ayuk, a little bit of a different story if you think that he is all of a sudden going to have a massive, massive bounce back from the injury this season. But how this is situated in my mind is we're going to have to make trades no matter what, regardless of if we're trading away some of these veterans for the long-term value to align this team maybe to 2026, or maybe we start flipping some of these wide receiver pieces to pick up additional starters elsewhere. Now, I want you to stay flexible. Like, if you can go approach your league mates and you can get some fool to send you a 2026 first for Brandon Ayuk, then what that does is that tells me we're rebuilding. I got a 2026 first for Ayuk. See ya, Evans. See ya, Cup. I'm going to throw Amon-Ra St. Brown on the trade block. Obviously, you don't need to sell St. Brown, but if we get a great offer, if we get Travis Hunter in the future first, see ya, Amon-Ra St. Brown. And we're looking for the long term. Now, a big issue you're going to have in a lot of these leagues is you throw Ayuk out there on the trade block. What's the possibility you get that first round pick? And instead, what if the very best offer you get is going to be a mid to late second rounder? You may be in a spot where your league mates aren't letting you pivot to the future value, which if that's the case, you may instead need to go and trade for a quarterback, trade for a running back. So plan A, let's throw these guys on the block. If we can sell these veteran receivers, get back a good return, if our league mates want to let us rebuild, let's go in that direction. If we hit a brick wall when we try to do that, we get no interest whatsoever, then we have to go to plan B. And plan B in my mind is looking at a player like Ted McMillan and seeing if we can find somebody else that is wanting to rebuild. Is there anybody in this league that's been accumulating future picks? This team has an extra set of 2026 picks, first, second, third, fourth, blah, blah, blah. And is there a world in which we can maybe send like Ted McMillan, get back a Breece Hall, Bryce Young, Isaiah, like let's go ahead and let's throw this in. Because that's what we would need. You need another quarterback. You need a running back. I don't think you're going to get to Achane. And I would want another tight end. I don't want to go into the season with just Loveland. I love Loveland in the long term, but... And again, this is plan B, as if we're not able to sell the veteran pieces and push to a rebuild. Where you sell off McMillan, even in a start 11 format, we'll have enough wide receiver production. Then at running back, we go into the season with Breece, Judkins, Blue, Benson. We still have questionable depth, but we at least have a chance. Quarterback, we go into the season with Caleb, Bryce Young, Anthony Richardson. I'm not going to sit here and tell you that this is the best quarterback room I've ever seen, but at least we have a chance. And we're still strong at wide receiver. Tight end, we go into the season with Loveland, and likely we at least have a chance. So, those are the two paths. We have to take one or the other, right? Because you can't sit in this middle gray area where we have no shot to win with our running backs, quarterbacks, but we have these aging out assets. So you have to take one or two paths. We have to sell the aging out assets, or we have to put our roster in a position where we can contend. I would probably prefer to push to 2026 and see what we can get with these guys. But again, a lot of times you approach your league mates, try to get that done. They're not willing to play ball. And in that case, your hand may be forced where you may instead need to go through and just look to address running back and quarterback. But I really hope I helped you out in some way. My guy, I really do appreciate you. And of course, thank you so much for everything. Now let's move this over to our next team. And just in case anybody is in this live stream, again, I want to reiterate, and you have a team waiting for me to review it on the site, just let me know your site username, and I'll go ahead and I'll check out your team for you right this second so you don't have to wait. That way you can hopefully ask me some questions as I go through it as well. But this team's going to be the cooler. So Hey Mason just finished with this startup. We can see it's startup by everybody's very, very even in this. Trading was not allowed during the draft. That's probably explains why everything's so even. So no transactions have taken place yet. Felt the draft went okay, but looking for advice on how I should approach the season. Thanks, bud. Thank you, my guy. Here we are the cooler. So again, super even league. I'm actually gonna have to pull this up on another screen to get the exact team name. And I did see all in the chat. I saw somebody ask me the nicest question I have ever heard. Let me pull this up. Where was this? I swear I'm not making this up. I'm going to have to hit Control F on this bad boy. John asking me the nicest question that I've ever heard in my entire life. Asking if we got a hair transplant. My friend, I will one day get a hair transplant if it gets to that point. But not at this point. But thank you for the ask. And, ooh, it's Jason. Okay. Jason, I didn't recognize your name with the cooler, but thank you, my friend. I know you've been a long time member of the flock. And here, this is the number one team in the league analyzer. So looking at this, I will say we're in a good spot. We have a little bit of a gap compared to everybody else. Now, of course, one, that has to do with you drafting quite well. Two, we did get Josh Allen, right? So if you ended up with the 101, you did have an advantage over everyone else. Not going to take that away from you, but we're sitting with the most value in this league. This is a deeper league as well. This is a start 11, half PPR, pretty big tight end premium format. Jason, do you mind clarifying? Is this an additional full point per reception for the tight end position? Can you let me know? But anyway, quarterback, we're rolling with Allen, Cam Moore, Jackson Dart. So in terms of contending this next season with this quarterback room, we're going to get a crap ton of points mainly because we have Josh Allen, right? So since we have Allen, this is a quarterback room we could contend with, but more so we're excited about the long-term upside of this quarterback room than we are the points this season. Going over and looking at running back, we have Henderson, RJ Harvey. Ooh, this is going to be a tiered PPR. Okay, good to know, my friend. Good to know. But we have Henderson, RJ Harvey. So in terms of our ability to contend with this running back room this season, if you're looking at redraft leagues, both Harvey and Henderson are being drafted as like mid to low end RB2s. So I'd say we're probably behind the eight ball, especially because we're not sitting with the best running back depth. But obviously, for the long term, very strong running back room. Going over to wide receiver, we have Nico, Hunter, Olave, Ayuk. A wide receiver we definitely can contend here. Nico getting drafted as a wide receiver 1 in redraft leagues. Hunter getting drafted as like a low end wide receiver 2, Olave wide receiver 3, Ayuk wide receiver 4. Is it the strongest wide receiver room ever? No, but it's a wide receiver room which we can contend with this next season. It's not like any of these guys are about to fall off a cliff. And going over to tight end, we have some younger, hopefully upside names with Britton Strange, Terrence Ferguson. Neither guy we can completely rely upon. So my issue with this squad here is mainly going to be, it feels like we don't have a ton of depth to get by. Like, I would be super interested to see the draft board with this. Jason, is there any chance that you're in the Discord and you can shoot me a screenshot of the draft board so I can see exactly what you did in the startup? I would love to see that. Yeah, if you are in the Discord, shoot me a DM of the draft board so I can pull that up real quick. But looking at it, like from a start 11 perspective, we start our 2 quarterbacks with Allen and Ward. We started 2 running backs with Henderson, Harvey. We sent up a prayer by putting Britton Strange in the lineup that he could get it done. And we still have 6 starting lineup spots we got to fill out. That's Nico, Hunter, Olave, Ayuk. And I guess you have to start Jalen Warren. And then who are you throwing in that last spot? Kyle Williams? And that's like week 1, you know? That's like everybody's healthy. There are no bye weeks. Like depth is going to be tough here. Now, figuring out what we could do to address that I would never be looking to trade away your 2026 first, your 2026 second here. Reason being, you just have so many rookies that it wouldn't be surprising at all if this team's not good this season. Like Cam Ward may not be viable this year in fantasy. Jackson Dart may not be viable this year in fantasy. Would it be the most surprising thing in the world if Henderson doesn't break out to the very end of the year? If Travis Hunter doesn't break out to the very end of the year? If Ayuk's injury lingers on? If Olave is a complete dud with the bad quarterback in his offense? Like, this team has a lot of downside for 2025. So I think for you to trade away your 2026 first, 2026 second, the floor is too low on the team. You'd be in too much of a compromising spot if it goes wrong, or even you just get one injury. Nico Collins goes down, you're screwed. Josh Allen goes down, you're screwed. So there's no scenario in which I'm wanting to trade away my 2026 first or second. If you wanted to contend, you have to pick up additional starters. If this is a start 11 league. Specifically, you have to pick up additional starters at almost every position. But like definitely running back, tight end in a tiered PPR format. And if you were going to pick up additional starters, really the only clear path for you to do so is by tiering down from one of the studs. I think the tier down options you would have are Allen and Nico Collins, but the difficulty with like tiering down from Josh Allen is like, who the hell is going to be able to afford it? Y'all just got out of the startup draft. Everybody's pretty even. Looking at an elite asset like Josh Allen, it's going to be extremely difficult for anybody to be able to touch Allen realistically. So maybe Nico Collins, you could get people to pivot. I mean, you could find a pivot option that way. Like maybe tier down from Nico Collins to a worse wide receiver and pick up an additional running back tight end combo. Like here. And this is if we're wanting to contend. And we'll go into plan B if this doesn't work after. But like you go tier from Nico all the way down to Jamison Williams, which obviously is a pretty damn big drop. If we can pick up an additional running back starter like Judkins and pick up an additional tight end starter like Loveland, this could be interesting. Especially because this would almost tie into our backup plan with this team. I think your backup plan with this team would almost be just plan for 2026. I mean, we're sitting with 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 5 of our most valuable players are rookies. One guy's coming off significant injury. Olave's in a really bad situation for this next season. So you could make that pivot from like Nico to these 3 names. Possibly have a couple additional starters for this year where if things break right in your favor, you may have some upside to contend. But more likely than not, we pivot over to a 2026 rebuild anyway. But I think that kind of move gives you the flexibility either way. Another thing that we could potentially look at is that I don't want to even go down the road of the Josh Allen trade just because the Josh Allen trade is going to be too expensive. Jason said he posted the draft table in the general chat. Let me go ahead and pull that up, my guy. Okay, real quick, yeah, if y'all aren't in the Discord, make sure y'all hop in the Discord. This should be the draft table. Okay, I just kind of wanted to see what you did in these middle rounds here. Somebody in your league took Chase at 1. This is us here. We went Allen, Nico there at the end of the second, Hunter at the beginning of the third. Cam Ward 411 looks great. Henderson 5th looks great. This Olave. Who the hell took Trey Harris 703? I like Olave in comparison to the other receivers. The question would be like, maybe Chase Brown, but Dart 811. You crushed this draft. I thought we were going to be able to look at the board and figure out like, oh, this is maybe where this went wrong and why we don't have a lot of depth. I don't like the Fannin pick. I think the Fannin pick's really bad. Like, what's funny is I think Strange is a much better pick than Fannin, but we took Strange 3-4 rounds later. Like, if we could have like taken like another running back, like even Spears or Aaron Jones instead of Fannin. So if I had any like complaints about this, it would maybe be like the Jalen Knoll Fannin picks. I feel like these two maybe put us down the path where we kind of have to go through and plan for 2026. But yeah, I think we tried it down tier for Nico, pick up a couple additional starters. If you wanted to contend and if you wanted to rebuild, I would still kind of be looking to sell Nico, but obviously then we'd be more so focusing just on 2026 value in general. And if we did pivot over to a rebuild as well, really the only other guys got to throw on the block are Olave and Ayuk. But I really do appreciate you. Congrats on absolutely crushing this draft, my guy. And yeah, thank you so much for everything. I know you've been with us forever now. Let me mark that as complete and refresh this. And let me know in the chat if there's anybody here that is waiting for a team review and it's already posted on the site. Drew, yes, that team build's good if you went wide receivers early. But if there's anybody here that's waiting for a team review on the site, I'll go ahead and look at that now. If not, we'll probably call the stream here. And I will see y'all again in a couple of days. I'm debating, do I do an underdog draft right now? Let me know, anybody in this live stream right now, would y'all go over to the redraft channel and hang out with me for an underdog draft if I were to do one? Let me know. But appreciate y'all hanging out with me, of course. Gonna go talk to the girlfriend for probably about 5 minutes, debate on doing that next draft. And y'all get a notification. I'd probably be 5 to 10 minutes if I get that going. But again, really do appreciate y'all. Of course, I hope y'all had a great weekend. And worst case scenario, if I don't fire up a stream on that channel right now, which I probably will in like 5 to 10 minutes, I will see y'all with the stream tomorrow night on that channel. But regardless, that's worst case scenario. Much appreciated. Hope y'all have a great night and hope y'all had a great weekend.